Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa salam. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. We'd like to welcome you all to tonight's broadcast of the Black Imams Roundtable, which will be the last one for the Gregorian year of 2024. I'm Imam Faheem, aka Father Rock, showing up the short shot, guaranteed to rock the spot, you know. I'm your host with the most from coast to coast. I went to the store today, you know, inshallah. I have below me just on the screen, but definitely higher than me in status and rank. Imam Genius, Imam Naeem Abdullah of Masjid of Pittsburgh. You know, I'm so on all of them, I can't even pronounce his name right. And we have, last but certainly not least, beloved Imam Otis, aka Imam Amin Muhammad of Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City, alhamdulillah, and we make up the Black Imams. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this opportunity to engage you tonight. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us and from you. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for any shortcomings. So let's start the ground rules. Please be sure to like and share this platform, inshallah ta'ala, you know, to get around those algorithms. And also be sure to, you know, get our suggested donations out the way. We suggest $10 for each person who joins us tonight, inshallah. And we get at least 50, 100 people every week or more, you know. So, and then people who may view it later on. If we can get $10 from 50 people, that our suggested goal or our projected goal of $500 a week, you know, helps us to keep doing this work, inshallah. So please take a moment to double and multiply your reward and put it on your scale of good deeds, which is even more worthy of giving. Why we should give? Because these are, you know, as a means for us to invest in ourselves on a day where everybody will be repaid in full and no one will be unjust. No one will be dealt with unjustly. So alhamdulillah, so we will try to get that out the way. So again, thank you all for joining. And then tonight's theme is entitled Breaking Chains and Driving Change. Breaking Change and Driving Change, I'm sorry. And so this was the theme of the MAS/ICNA convention that was in Chicago over the past weekend. And, you know, they had a nice lineup of stars. So for those who don't know, it's the annual convention of the Muslim American Society and Islamic Circle of North America. And I believe this is like their, you know, been doing it over 20 years and something that they have every year. And so they had a nice lineup of, you know, esteemed speakers, you know, including our very own Imam Amin Muhammad. I know Ustada Aisha Prime was there, Sheikh Mendez, Ustada Nuruddin Knight, you know, and all of the all-stars that were there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve them all and accept their efforts. And we hope that, you know, the outcome was very great. It was very favorable for all of those who attended. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless it for all of those who had a part in putting it together. And so the theme there was about breaking chains and driving change. I didn't get a chance to, I don't even think none of this is online. I've seen some clips here and there, but it was a very fruitful event from what I've heard. You know, I was trying to get my daughter to go out there, but, you know, time didn't really permit, you know, we didn't really get it done in time. But I'm just sure, you know, the lineup of speakers, it was very beneficial. And so this concept, you know, breaking the chains. And when we understand what this means, it means like, you know, to break away those things that limit you internally and externally, and breaking away from negative patterns, breaking away from beliefs and circumstances, anything that holds you down from your potential of being who you are. And with respect to the deen, anything that, you know, keeps us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that keeps us from getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether in word or thought or deed, you know, we have to learn how to break those things, you know. And then, of course, you know, we know in the science of tasawwuf, It is about, breaking those, blameworthy traits and replacing them with praiseworthy traits, And so that's part of the spiritual thing. And then, once you break those spiritual chains and those psychological chains, then many of us, we've been in bondage, physically, psychologically, spiritually, mentally, learning how to break those chains. Many of us have been through, a number of circumstances in our lives that kept us down, that kept us restricted, that kept us from reaching our full potential. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, some tawfiq, in that we are able to, break some of those chains, whether spiritual, mental, physical, psychological, and whatever facet of our lives, whether it was a marriage or anything, then what happens after you break free? What do? It's similar to, like if you, for those who've been incarcerated before, you've done a considerable amount of time. And then when you're able to break free, when you get out, you get paroled, like what's next? What kind of driving change are you going to do, to avoid being in bondage again, or being chained down, or being restricted or stopped or stifled, And so we use that concept in our deen. How do we break free from things that keep us from, developing and growing and nurturing, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the concept that we will be discussing tonight, inshallah ta'ala. And so we'll be discussing it, for the most part. Imam Amin will be reflecting on, the conference over the weekend. The genius will add, his I don't know, what's that called? Ingenuity, I think it's called, right? Put his ingenuity touch on it. And then I'll follow up with something, inshallah ta'ala. So it looks like it's going to be a nice discussion, inshallah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us. So please, if you haven't done so already, if you're just coming in, make sure you share. Make sure you donate, inshallah. Make sure you attend. Make sure you are present. And make sure that, you bring your A game in listening, inshallah ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. So I will pass it to Imam Naeem, inshallah ta'ala.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. I'm going to try to keep my introductory comments short because I really want to hear from Imam Amin and his reflections of that weekend in Chicago at that conference. But as was stated already, the theme of the whole conference was breaking chains and driving change. Now, that conference was, from what I understand, primarily an Arab/immigrant gathering, but they had a separate track or set aside or a dedicated, portion of the program to basically allow Black folks to do their thing, from what I understand. And so that was the theme of the conference. But that whole idea of breaking chains and driving chains takes on a whole different meaning for us. Because as Black folks or Africans in America, we come from, we have a unique history. We are African in origin. And just in case nobody told you, Africa is a continent. It's not a country. There are almost 60 countries in Africa. Sometimes you have to remind people of that. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So we come from that, or we were taken from that in mass, in large numbers. And how we were taken took place a lot of different ways. Sometimes on the continent, we were, meaning when I say we, our descendants, who were the first to land here in what we now call America, were the prisoners, maybe in wars or battles that took place on the continent. And many times, those prisoners or those who were captured were eventually sold to Europeans. And most of us or our ancestors come from being those captured prisoners and brought to this hemisphere, with most of our ancestors making a pit stop in the Caribbean or South America until finally landing here in North America. Once here, we were made into slaves, and that's why they call it chattel slavery, meaning human beings were seen as and treated as property, not as human beings with a soul, treated as property. Literally, if you go back to the shipping manifest, they had us like inventory, like with gunpowder and cattle and alcohol and all that kind of stuff. They would have us listed as inventory. So we were literally treated as property. And then once here, it wasn't just about forced labor and not getting paid. They did their best to disconnect us from where we came from. So even in many of the states in this country, and I'm getting to a point, it's not a history lesson, I'm just reminding us of something, that it was illegal, in some places a capital punishment, meaning punishable by death, for being literate, getting caught reading and writing, and doing that African stuff. There was a concerted, conscious effort to keep us disconnected from our lineage, from our history. And then on top of that, they would mix up the families. In other words, you may have been born, obviously, to a mother and a father, and your family will just be arbitrarily split up and sold to different plantations. And then your last name changed. Your last name was the name of the slave owner that owned you. So on the slave plantation, you have the foundation for dysfunctional, broken families. And then, after struggling and fighting for over 400 years, they say that you're free, physically free. But you have nothing, no wealth. And then came the period, what they call Reconstruction. This is when lynching became a thing. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think black people were getting hanged and lynched during slavery. Not really, because we were seen as property. So if you killing your property, you destroying your bottom line. The lynchings and the killings didn't start until we were given our physical freedom. And then so we were cut off from our history and all of this stuff. So why am I mentioning some of this? Because we're talking about breaking chains and driving change, which was the theme of the conference. So a lot of those things that we went through, some things we did amongst ourselves just for survival, have seeped into what we may loosely call as our culture. And these things are destroying us. These things are destroying us. And we'll give examples later, inshallah. But so a lot of us, we live life and don't realize that there are a lot of chains that we need to be breaking, a lot of them. And so one of the things that Imam Amin told us that they were discussing at the conference was the resilience of Black people. And this is why I mentioned some of that. And I said I didn't want to be long. That's why I'm cutting what I'm saying short. But there's a whole lot of stuff that we as Black people went through that I haven't even mentioned yet. Like Jim Crow and a whole lot of other stuff, right? And so I'm saying that we're still here. We are still here. Black folks, you're still here. To have gone through what we have gone through as a people and still be here is nothing short of a miracle. Many people who have been through what we've been through no longer exist. They are extinct. But Allah has it where we're still here. And so I say in this context, many times when I see our people acting crazy, I say, you know, alhamdulillah, it's a miracle that all of us ain't crazy like that, right? So look what we've been through. That we still have a piece of sanity is amazing when you look at our history in totality. And so the resilience of Black people, subhanAllah, then add to the fact that if you look at the period of slavery, where the slaves came from, the places where most of the slaves came from, they weren't, I'm saying slave for lack of better words, they wasn't born slaves, they was forced, they was enslaved, right? I'm saying that for somebody correct me. You know what I mean, right? The places where we came from were and still now have over 90% Muslim populations, then and now. The demographics haven't really changed. So when they took our lineage from most of us, they also took our deen from most of us. They took our religion from us. And then to see so many of us coming back to the deen, subhanAllah. To see so many of us coming back from the deen, coming back to the deen that they took from us is amazing to me. So you talk about resilience. A lot of times we talk about what's going wrong with us. One of the things that we're resilient. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind, yes, we're still here. Yes, we got battle scars, generational trauma is on us, but we have to recognize that some things need to be broken, some things need to be kept. And there's a lot of stuff we need to get rid of. And I'm going to mention some, inshallah. But like I said, I ain't going to talk too much because I wasn't there. Imam Amin was there. So we want to let him speak, inshallah. Bismillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين لله تبارك وتعالى السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. You know, I really enjoyed myself at that mass conference. And actually, this was my first time attending a mass conference. I've never attended one, except maybe years ago doing business. And at that time, it was more of an ISNA convention, not a mass convention. That's a whole nother discussion. In those days, it was ISNA, and mass was for like the little kids. They were the side programs. This is the first one that I attended where mass was at the head, you know what they say, controlling the big stage. And that has a lot of dynamics to it. Maybe we'll talk about it one day, not now. But that's a whole nother discussion. But really, it was a real joyous occasion for me, personally. And I think it was a huge step for our community, African American Muslims, if we seize the opportunity. And that's conditioned. It is a huge opening if we seize the opportunity. If not, then it was just some entertainment we had for a day, and that's it. You Negroes go back and sit in your caves somewhere. Excuse me, I want to be frank. This is the BIRT. So I want to have a real BIRT conversation. So I'm not, and those of you who know me, I'm not like an apologetic guy. I don't like talking like that. But at the same time, I don't want to undermine the kindness and goodness that was extended to our community. So, I need to speak in a way that doesn't show ingratitude for someone who did you good. So I'm cautious of how I approach the things I want to talk about. So let's talk about the benefits. To me, one of the greatest benefits of that conference was that there was facilitation for us to get our act together as a collective without that being a burden upon us financially. So in other words, they laid out a room for us, gave us a day to talk about issues we deemed important. They didn't interfere with that. And they financially supported it, something that we may have struggled to do ourselves. So in that, we should be grateful for that, because they didn't have to do that. So even if they were encouraged to do it, they still didn't have to do it. And collectively, we would have been fine with that. So, so the fact that they did it, the fact that they facilitated for us, we should show our gratitude, right? That doesn't mean that we should stop there in pushing for brotherly and sisterly treatment, but we should recognize the goodness that was extended. So for me, having the opportunity for 300 to 400 or a little more African Americans from all over the country to come for free and discuss their own issues and lay it out and plan it, to me, that's a victory. And I would like to personally thank all of those who helped facilitate that, from MANA, from MASS, all of those who were engaged in making it a successful event, and it was very successful. I personally want to thank them. The setup was unique. And what do I say unique? It was a basic 4-day convention. So I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know what happened Sunday because I didn't stay. So basically 3 days. And the breaking chains and driving change was the theme of MASS, not the theme of MANA. So that theme had absolutely nothing to do with African American Muslims. And reason why we selected Breaking Chains and Driving Change, their title, is because we should discuss that title from our point of view. Basically, that was about Palestine, Gaza, Syria, Had nothing to do with us. And I'm speaking the way I'm speaking because it is a reality. They were, and Mass is a predominantly Arab led organization. Predominantly the leaders are all Arabs, right? So their focus, and it showed in the attendance, is their community, which is, I don't see anything wrong with that. Tell the truth, to be honest, I don't. I think it's commendable that you take care of yourself. Allah told us in the Quran, alaykum bi anfusikum, right? Take care of yourself, right? I mean, nothing wrong with that. So for us, we don't recognize that a lot as a community. We are a people, just like other people are a people. They have concerns, and so do we. And I'm saying that not to be divisive, to be realistic. Because everyone realized that except African-American Muslims. Follow what I'm saying. Could everyone do me a favor? Put African-American Muslims, even if you line another term, you know, ex-descendants, enslaved, you got all these terms for us. Right? But just for the sake of what I'm trying to get at, African-American Muslims, right? What I mean by African-American Muslims is those enslaved Africans, their descendants who were born and raised on the shores of America and grew up in the conditions that they lived in. I'm talking about them. I'm not talking about no one else. The Negroes of America, whom they used to call, and they got other words for us too, right? I'm talking about us. And it's very important that we distinguish. I'm not talking about immigrants from Africa who happen to come here and get treated like Negroes, but you're not a Negro. As one of the speakers said, you can always opt out, right? You can always opt out. You can always opt out. I'm Somali. I'm Nigerian. I'm from Ghana. I'm Gambian. I'm born and raised in America. There's no opting out, right? I can't go nowhere else and be other than who I am as a Black man. So when we say Black Muslims, African American, we're talking specifically about them. You, me, we are a totally different people, unlike any other people on the planet Earth. Do y'all understand what I'm talking about? So I'm not talking about nobody else. So don't come tell me he's Black. No, I'm talking about us. I ain't talking about nobody else. I'm not denying his Blackness, but I'm talking about he doesn't share, or she wouldn't share, our unique circumstances. And nor do we share theirs. So I'm saying that because we need to concentrate on who we're talking about here, or we're going to be scattered all over the place and we're never going to hit the target, right? We have a target audience that we need to concentrate on. So our conference, within their conference was 3 days. Our conference inside of their conference was 1 day. Their conference had many rooms. I don't know the number. Let's say 20, and a big stage, a big room, right? We had a room that capacity of 300 people, a little more, because we had some people standing. So and it was only on Saturday, right? So it was 1 day in a room that had a capacity of 300, and they had attending the overall conference, they said 45,000. Do you get the optics? So we weren't really well represented. Don't be fooled. there's 45,000 people, and there's a room for 300 African Americans to do their program on one day. So we got to put things in context, right? Which means that we weren't the focus of the conference. They were generous enough to give us a room in their house. And it's very important to understand that. They were very generous to give us a room in their house. And this is fine if we're wise, right? So I'm saying this because I'm trying to get used to this. Don't get used to this. I'm really choosing my words carefully because I don't want to say the wrong thing that don't need to be said. And you know that's difficult for me.
It looked painful on your face, man.
Yeah, it's painful. It's not easy.
I'm over here making dua.
No, this is a time when you need to be careful, right? Right. Which means that our issues still were not addressed. They were hinted at just by the mere time. Our issues were not addressed. They were hinted at because of the amount of time, right? However, it is an opening for us to realize what we could be doing if we work collectively to solve our issues and to take care of us as a people. And we're watching others do it. So if we're wise, we can take a lesson here. Man, it's hard being politically correct. It just doesn't work for me at all. Like I'm struggling here. I hope y'all following me. I know this ain't how I normally had talked, but I'm trying here. So with this being said, all right, so I set it up. So our track, so now we're in our room. In the house, we have our own room, and we doing our stuff. What is it? So our track, because they call it the African American track. So they got different sections going on at the same time. So ours is an African American track that is put on through MANA. MANA in cooperation with MAS in the African American track. MANA, Muslim Alliance of North America, in the eyes of others, other communities, is the national umbrella organization for African American Muslims. How many of you know who MANA is? Just can I get some eyes? Because a lot of people in here. How many of you are familiar with MANA? Just say I quickly. I'm really wondering this because this is another subject matter. How many of you are familiar with MANA? So MANA are, in the eyes of ISNA, ICNA, MAS, all these lettered groups of other ethnicities, for them, MANA represents them for African Americans. That's how they look at it. So that is our parent organization in the eyes of others. Forget how we feel about it. We're talking about how others feel about it, right? So they allow MANA to represent us in that. So MANA therefore stands as a representation of African American Muslims. Whether we agree or don't agree, doesn't matter. That's our organization. that's going to represent us when it's the negotiation stages with other communities, major organizations. So what the attempt of manner here now is, what do they address? They address 4 things in their African-American track. The first was reflecting on our legacy and how we overcame the different obstacles and challenges that we had as a community. So as the African-American Muslim experience, reflecting on our legacy and confronting our challenges. And that session was a 45-minute session, right? Led by Sheikh Aisha Prime and Ustad Ubaidullah Evans. So they spoke roughly each 15 minutes on our legacy. That's the time they had. And the challenges. So I said 15 minutes apiece, and then 15 minutes for questioning. So obviously, they really couldn't thoroughly discuss the subject, which no one had that kind of time. That's because we had a room in somebody else's house. So the parameters of what we could do is within the allotment we were given, which is no one else's fault. I'm not saying it's a fault. I'm just speaking of the reality. So you're going to discuss our legacy and confront our challenges in 30 and 45 minutes with 2 speakers and questions and answers. That each of these parts really is a conference in and of itself. If we had our own house. If we had our own house. So they addressed the issue to the best they could, and they did a fantastic job. But they made points, and we're going to snatch some of those points, right, after I go through it. The second was another 45-minute session, which was searching for sakina, tranquility, finding Allah's love and tranquility within African-American Muslim marriages. Marriage. 15 minutes. That was Sheikh Mohammed Mendez and Ustada Angelica Lensley Ali, the village auntie. And she's impressive. She was supposed to come tonight, but some family matters happened. Make dua for her family, that Allah gives them well-being and afiyah and shifa. But inshallah, you're going to enjoy this sister because she's going to come, inshallah. To me, she was the star of our track. The village auntie is that's a sister right there, boy. She's tough, right? I was really, it was my first time actually listening to her and meeting with her. And she left, they say the first impression is the lasting one. She left one on me that I'll never forget. That sister, ooh-wee, she's tough. And I've never seen someone in all our gatherings give Ustada Aisha Prime, Sheikh Aisha Prime, a run for her money. But the village auntie, boy, she brought that heat. Right? She's tough, right? That's just my, all right, drifting a little bit. But I invited her to come tonight, but she couldn't make it because of family responsibilities. But that sister, she should be like a BIT regular. She's, boy. She keeps it real. She keeps it real. Okay. So they talked about the African-American marriage. And you know something she said when she was talking? She said, our marriages that we see going, and she was talking, she was really open and really vulnerable. She was going in, talking about her own marriage, right? And she said to the sisters, it was so strong. She said, a lot of the marriage problems we have because you don't like men, because you ain't like your daddy. I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa. Then she came a little long. She addressed it. Then she said, and some of the men, they don't like women because they don't like their mama. I was like, whoa. And she said it like that. You don't like your daddy and you don't like your mama. And that needed to be unpacked, but there's no time. But like, I was like, whoa. And then she said something that Imam Naeem would really love. And tell her she had me screaming in the crowd. I couldn't even be Sheikh Amin. I was like, whoa, go get him, sis. She said, and another problem is y'all don't know how to follow leadership. She said, y'all don't belong to no leadership. Y'all know how to follow. And in the marriage, it reflects that y'all don't even know who's the leader. I was like, whew. She was nailing it out. She said, I don't do nothing without permission. I was like, whoa. She was, I'll put that. She took that 15 minutes and boy, you'd have thought she talked for an hour. That's how good she was.
And you ain't slicky, man. Talking about you, man. Naeem would have loved this. You know, you love it too.
She was talking about Jama'ah. She was holding it down. But anyway, so she was talking about what we need to do in marriages. And she has a whole, PowerPoint about different issues. And, but inshallah, she'll come and we'll question it. And I want to look at what she said, and we want to have a nice dialogue about that. And Sheikh Mohammed Mendez, he went on the more spiritual side of Sakina and how to bring tranquility and love in the home and mercy. He had a Sufi overtone of his discussion. Then they had the younger people, which was the third session with our brother Tariq Touré from Darul Rahma in Detroit and Sister Nandi Shabazz, who is with Mass, but she's really an active young sister and really, 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 really working. Y'all remember she put the program together that we did in Florida when they brought the Black Imams Roundtable. So they talked about stepping forward and reaching back, youth in the African American community claiming their place. And they talked about how the youth should be engaged, and it was well attended by the youth, and that was a good thing. The youth stood up, and it was a nice group of young people in the crowd, and they were talking about leadership and how to approach leadership, and it was very, very good. And then the last one was Ustadh Nuruddin Knight and myself, and the purpose of that discussion was the relentless heart of African American Muslims. So spiritually, what should we take from this, and what are our actionable items that we need to go forward? And so we laid out a path that we need to take. All right, we finished this day because we were last. We finished, we got everything, and here's what we need to do. Here's our marching orders. So and what we talked about was basically the state of our hearts in terms of what we need to remove that are impediments for our collective success, and what we need to adorn our hearts with to facilitate our success, and how to do it. So both of us touched on that, and I'll come back to that. But that's the overall, that was the overall theme of the conference, of the track, the African American track. But I'm going to say something, and this is going to be important for us. As long as someone else does for us, we will never do for ourselves. Can y'all put that up? As long as someone else does for us, we will never do for ourselves. That's important for us to understand. So while we're thankful for the courtesies that's extended, we must be mindful that it is our responsibility to do for ourselves what others do for us, or we would like them to do for us. That's not their responsibility. It's our responsibility. And this is important because our default position has been, as long as someone else is going to do it, I'm not going to do it. So we have this concept of not me, and we got to fix that in our communities. No, yeah, you. And then understand this: whoever funds you, runs you. I stole that from Imam Dawood Walid. So I got to give where we got it from. Whoever funds you, runs you. We have to start funding ourselves. Because by funding you, they're going to restrict your movement just by the fact that you're relying on them to move. You cannot move without them. So that's something we got to fix. However, when someone does something for you, you have to take advantage of it. And you have to maximize the moment, because sometimes that's all you got is a moment, right? So the conference had nothing to do with us. So I'm not thinking about the conference. And we need to be cautious as a people not to celebrate someone's successes, other successes, while we're still in the struggle and acting like their success will change our struggle. Let me repeat that. We can't keep looking at other success and trying to adopt their success, because their success is not going to change our challenges. In other words, 45,000 people attended, right? Over 45,000. But that is not reflective of our engagement. So we shouldn't claim that. We should see the challenges that we have from ourselves and maximize that room that we had and what we did with it. I have a lot more to say, but I think I'm going to stop there to give the other imams, because what we need to do from here on is we need our own house. We need our own budget. We need time to address our issues adequately, because all of our issues are in need of deep critical thinking and evaluation. All of our issues are in need of deep critical thinking and evaluation. Every issue we got. So the four things that were held, which are all important: understanding our legacy and confronting our challenges, that itself is a conference alone with nothing else, just dealing with that. Marriages and family life in our community is a separate conference. Our youth is a separate conference, and how to engage them and prepare them for future leadership. And spirituality, our hearts and how they've been affected and how they need to be cleansed and purified, is 10 conferences that we need. You follow my point? So what we need to look at is, okay, they showed us what we could do and they helped us do it. How are we going to continue that ourselves? Right? And what can they do as allies to help us do our part to improve the condition of the entire ummah. That's what I see as like go forth, and I'll discuss that more. Lastly, I would like all of us to pray for Imam Siraj Wahaj. Let's recite Al-Fatiha, that Allah gives him afiyah and gives him strength and gives him tawfiq and gives him a break. Seriously. Al-Fatiha. We're going to appreciate him one day as a community. And we should value his soldiering on our behalf. That man is a man. May Allah reward him. But we got to give our men a break, right? He's over 70. I won't say way over 70. Between 73, 74, 75, somewhere around there. And he's still working like he's a 20-year-old on our behalf. And he's not a 20-year-old. But we really got to give our leaders a break. And that means we got to get involved. We got to work, right? We can't keep saying, go ahead, you got it, Sheikh. Nah, Sheikh, you can take a rest. I'll come get some advice from you, but you can relax. Job well done. We got it from here. We have to develop that spirit. And we got your back, Imam. Don't worry about it. We got a special relaxation package for you with all amenities. Right? You deserve it. I really wish that we understand the sacrifice that our leaders and forerunners put for us. Seriously, I think we really need to take account of ourselves for those who have, forged ahead for us. We don't appreciate like we should. In fact, we just run us into the ground. Don't do that, right? We need to be better with that. And may Allah reward him. And may Allah increase him. But don't forget that we owe, right? We owe. Collectively, we owe. And I'll stop there. I know Imam Siraj was like, come on, Imam, you ain't got to do me like that. No, I love you, Imam, but we got to do you better as a community. Really, we do. We need a retirement plan for our imams and our sheikhs and our pioneers. We need like just a rest period, that they return to Allah well rested after working so hard. We need to do that. Tell you, that's my opening, which was kind of long, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Imam Naeem.
SubhanAllah, you mentioned Imam Siraj. May Allah protect and preserve him. When I graduated from the university, that's where I went. Master Taqwa is my Imam and teacher. Really, if you get any benefit from me, 9 times out of 10, it comes through him. Alhamdulillah. Once again, may Allah protect and preserve him. I want to, all of you who are joining us this evening, if you remember last week's roundtable, I called your attention to 3 African countries. 3 African countries Does anyone remember what those three countries was? And I'm not going to wait for y'all to answer. I'm going to tell y'all. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso. The leaders of those three countries, I decided to call them BART. You know, just like we have BERT, the Black Imams Roundtable. I call them BART, the Black Amirs Roundtable. All three of those countries were at one time or another French colonies. French colonies. Then all of them within the last 2 and 3 years, they had coup d'etat. I don't know how to say that plural, but these military generals overthrew their presidents, their leaders. See, a lot of you don't know that most of Africa is still colonized. What? No, they were given their independence in the 1960s. They were given their independence in name only. Almost all of those countries on the African continent are still colonies of their former colonial masters, literally. Like even these former French colonies in the African continent, they call them Francophone countries. Their money is even printed in France. They have a special money, the CFA, the CFA, that's printed in France. It's weird. It's a weird situation. And the reserves of those countries are held in French banks, and the French determines how much of their own money they can get. I mean, that's literally how bad it is. It's crazy. So these three countries were three of the many countries that were formerly French colonies. So another thing I have to tell you about a lot of African countries, the presidents of these countries, normally when they get in power, they just basically steal half the money, buy nice cars, you know, put money in offshore bank accounts in the West. And, you know, if they spend any money to actually fix their country, they borrow it from the West or the World Bank or the IMF. Hope you're paying attention. I'm going to bring it home in a second, but just pay attention. So so you got to picture what's going on. So for the people in Africa, when the society is trash, they blame the president that's over them. But most of them don't see the hand that's behind really controlling things. That's most of the countries on the continent, whether they were formerly colonized by the French or the British or the Portuguese or whoever. That's really the situation. So back to these three countries, they did 7 things that I want to mention that we need to do on our own level locally. The first thing they did was they overthrew their presidents who were not looking out for the best interests of their people and looking out for the interests of the West. And these leaders they're Muslim, their population is mostly Muslim, and the leaders that they overthrew were Muslim, I think. I know at least some of them were, if not all of them. So like literally, this was military takeover. Some people in the military, like in one of these situations, they surrounded the presidential palace. It was like, it's time to punch out, Prez. Your time is over. Yeah. You ain't president no more. This is enough. Enough is enough. So when this happened, so that's one thing. They got rid of the leaders who were just getting fat off the cow and not doing anything for the people. This is something that we need to do. Because there's a lot of people who take a lot of our attention, but they don't care nothing about our people, and they're not benefiting us or trying to benefit us in any kind of way. So, yeah, we don't have no physical territory. We don't have no military or nothing, but we can stop paying attention to people who waste our time when our people need real help. So that's one thing that we should do. They overthrew their leaders who were really just doing for themselves. We need to turn our back on people who put themselves in front of us, but don't bring nothing to benefit us. When this happened, some of the other African countries who still have that old mindset is like, we're gonna, you make it Massa mad. Come on, you can't be overthrowing who we put in place. So some other African countries was like, listen, if you don't put that president back in power, we're going to attack you. Other African countries. These countries and some other countries was like, no, you're not going to do that. If you attack them, you're attacking all of us. So number two is that these three countries, they not only went through the same thing, but they united with each other. They said, we're not working separately. We're going to work together. So these three countries who had similar situations, they didn't start going through it separately. They said, we together, we won. We're putting our hands together. And alhamdulillah, we've done that here on the Black Imams Roundtable. Us three imams in our communities, we work together. You against one, you against all of us. You with one, you with all of us. So we have to work together, even though we have maybe different organizations, different masjids, or different communities in different cities, but we're one. Right? So that's number two. They work together. Number three, in their situation, they kicked out the French troops because the French still had military in their country. I'm going to get to the reason why they had military, because it's going to get to another point. I don't want to jump to that point yet. But the French were there in their country. They told the French soldiers, get out. Bye. Thank you, but no thank you. We don't need your help. What does that mean for us? See, the French were not there because they were friends. They were frenemies. You know what frenemies is, right? Enemies who pretend that they're your friend. The French soldiers were frenemies. They recognize that. And they said, y'all got to get out. Whenever we gather in our organizations and all that kind of stuff, we have a lot of frenemies with us. Sometimes we have to say, excuse me, y'all need to get up out of here. We need to talk business. Number four, they took control of their own resources. They took control of their own resources. Let me tell you how bad it is. Let me give you an example. Like in Niger, right? One of the minerals that they have there is uranium. And uranium is used to produce electricity. So France is buying uranium for like 10 cents. I forgot how much, what the weight was, but 10 cents for whatever, right? And they're lighting up France. You're getting electricity from this uranium that's coming out of Niger. But France is selling that same uranium for 200. They're buying it for 10 cents. They're selling it for 200 to other countries like Canada and other places. So France is getting paid, but the people in Niger is broke. And the whole world is eating off of them. So those countries, they took control of their own resources. Almost all of these African countries, They have international companies or European companies that are responsible for extracting and getting all of these minerals out of the ground and out of the water in Africa, and everybody all over the world is getting rich off of it, and their lives are getting easy because of it. Meanwhile, the people who live in these places, they're broke and don't have nothing. So they took control of their own resources. And this is another thing also in our community. A lot of the skill, talent that we have in our community, the Black community, other people are making use of it, and the Black people are not benefiting from it. And so we have to make sure that our people benefit from our own human resources. With those countries, they talk about mineral resources. Just think about all the stuff that, like, just for example, Niger, cement, coal, gold, gypsum, the stuff you make sheetrock with, limestone, salt, silver, tin, uranium, all coming out of Niger. Mali, gold, cotton. Burkina Faso, sorghum, pearl, rice, peanuts, cotton. And they have gold too. And the deep thing about it is, just recently, they caught somebody trying to smuggle gold out of there, and they caught him at the border. But they understand that this person wasn't the first time that it happened. They've been doing it before, right? So there's a whole lot of resources that get out of the country without people knowing. And so, subhanAllah. Anyway, just recently, they didn't start it yet, but they announced their own news media, because a lot of these countries, they have to kick out the Western news media because they just there telling 10% truth, 90% lies to make the country and make the government look bad. So a lot of times they kick out their ass like, nah, come on, you trying to incite people to invade us and attack us and make us look like we doing human rights violations. Get out of, y'all need to go. So they started their own news agency. And with any movement, with any endeavor, you need to get your message out. And so they understood that. So we're talking about number 5. So they didn't start it yet, but they just announced that everything's ready to go. They just didn't do the official kickoff yet. But these 3 countries together, they have their own news agency. We have to do the same thing. We have to get our message out. One of our problems is that we have a good message, but is not getting out there. So we need an organized media to get our message out there. Number 6, and this goes back to them kicking the French troops out, which I mentioned as number 3. All of these countries in that region, they call it the Sahel region. All of these countries, they have a problem. Their problem is Wahhabism. But it's not like our Wahhabis where they just talk and call you a deviant. They're actually funded with weapons and military training and all that kind of stuff. And so they're kidnapping people, they're killing people and all that kind of stuff. These Wahhabis, they were Boko Haram and some groups that broke off from them. They go by different names now, but they're Wahhabis. They have the creed of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And the reason the French troops were there, supposedly, was to help them to deal with those insurgents. Like when you hear them talk about it on the news, they're not going to mention Wahhabi. They're just going to say insurgents, terrorists. They're Wahhabis. That's who they're talking about. But they come to understand that these French troops and all that kind of stuff, this is how these insurgents is getting their weapons and their training and all that kind of stuff. Through them. They're supposed to be there to protect you from the insurgents, but they're strengthening the insurgents. And sometimes a lot of these other countries surrounding these 3 countries, they also help the insurgents, even if they have the same problem in their own country, because they try to destabilize those three countries. So in those three countries, Wahhabism is a destabilizing factor in their countries. Right? They even destroying manuscripts of works of our scholars, whole bunch of stuff. It was big news a few years ago in Mali. Right? The problem with our people think Wahhabism is Islam, and they don't recognize how much of a destabilizing factor Wahhabism is. They think Wahhabism is Islam, and y'all talking some new strange stuff. But our people don't have the message because we don't have the media, like we need, which is why we mentioned that earlier. So they have that problem. And the deep thing about these countries, because remember, these countries, they keep you in debt. And like, y'all don't understand, it's crazy, right? These countries, right, when they borrow money from the World Bank or any other people, right, they will say, okay, we'll let you borrow money so that you can build up your roads, your infrastructure, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But in order to get this money, you have to agree to certain things. And sometimes these agreements are crazy. Like, you can grow almost anything, almost anywhere in Africa. They say, well, no, you can't grow this, you can't grow that, and you can't grow this. You have to import it from someplace else. Even though you can grow it on your own, you have to import it from someplace else. So it makes these countries dependent on other countries when they don't have to be dependent. But the reason why these countries are like this is because they took the easy way out. They just borrowed money from someone and they agreed not to be self-sufficient. So in order to get around this, what these three countries did, once they took over, they said they reached out to the people, the average working man, and they said, listen, we're not taking no more money from these people. We calling on everyone to contribute X amount, X percentage from their salaries, donate it back to the government so that we can build our own stuff. And that's what they did. And these countries, I think it was Niger or Mali, I forget, they paid off all of their past debt from the World Bank and the IMF, and they don't owe there is no national debt for them, right? And so now they are self-sufficient. And so we've kicked this off the same way every week, and that's my 7th point, and my 7th point is going to end with a shameless plug. We've instituted the same thing. We ask every week that when we come together, everyone contribute at least $10 so that we can raise at least a minimum of $500 every time we come together, so that we can support our own endeavors. And 500 is not nearly enough to talk about what we need to do. Imam Amin just finished speaking about the one room we had in the conference setting. When we need to have conference, we need to have workshops, we need think tanks that need to be kicked off, not just with Islamic scholarship and the various sciences. We need to discuss our economy. We need to discuss a whole bunch of stuff, right? All that stuff take money to get. Take money. When we gather, you're not going to be able to say, you're not going to be able to get on a plane and be like, I'm going to the Islamic conference organized by that Black Imams Roundtable. It's Fi Sabilillah. Let me get on the bus. Let me get on the plane. It's Fi Sabilillah. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. Even if you try to do it virtually, right? And you have Zoom, right? Zoom going to be like, we need your subscription. No, this is Fi Sabilillah. Put that in the algorithm. Let us come together on Zoom all together. No, all of this stuff costs. StreamYard costs. Everything costs, right? So you need money. And so the way that they did it is that the people financed their own freedom from the World Bank and the IMF and all that kind of stuff. We need to do the same thing. We need to finance our own activities and endeavors. And one thing that I didn't put there, these presidents who were from the military, and they still carry their military titles, captain and all that kind of stuff, as leaders. But they're not doing it by themselves. They have professionals that are skilled in their areas. They have people that's in charge of agriculture. That's their thing. They got people in charge of finance. That's their thing. We need y'all to do the same thing. We be talking about stuff. Yeah, we're the ideologues, but we need people that's professional, that know what they're doing in their field. Like, listen, I'm all in. Where you need me? How are we going to do this? I'm not a finance person. I'm not I can't plant nothing, right? We talking about, moving together. We talk about all this kind of stuff. We need people that are skilled in those areas to be just as dedicated as we are. Just like those leaders of those countries have people that are just as dedicated as they are. So alhamdulillah. So I mentioned 7 things, and I did it that way because sometimes it's easier to see something when it's outside of yourself. So I gave you a bigger international example of people doing certain things that we need to do ourselves on a local, smaller level. Alhamdulillah. I'm done. I think it's you, Imam Amin.
Oh, okay. Imam Fah, you got something to say? Rock shall enough the sure shot.
Oh no, you gotta say that with some rhythm, man. We're musical people.
I'm sorry, Habibi. I never was a singer or a hip hopper or none of that.
Rock sure enough the short shot, guaranteed to rock the spot.
All right.
No, I missed a little bit. The circuit in the power went out for a second, man, and I had to go down to the basement, So, but I missed a little bit. But just reflecting on what I did here, a quote from Chuck D. Since we talked about hip hop, a line that he said in one of his songs. He said, "Our status is the saddest, so I carry you at black." It's like our status is still sad. After all of the struggles that we've been through, after all the resilience that we've, exhibited, we still got a lot of work ahead of us, and, when we're talking about breaking the chains, I came across this quote that talks about, that the people who break, it says that you will not break loose until you realize that you yourself forged the chains that bind you. You will not break loose until you realize that you yourself forged the chains that bind you. And so we have to realize that, a lot of times we are in our own way because we won't put things down. We won't, take a moment to let go of the things that prevent us from trusting each other, from putting our hands in each other and really putting forth a concentrated effort to do more than just the bare minimum. For instance, when we ask for $10, that's like the bare minimum. We try to have it where everybody can be able to cover it, but, some of us should be given, way more than that every week or monthly or whatever, because we have the ability to do it. And, we'll see things start to grow and start to prosper, once we pick up this baton and run with it together as a collective. We've, for far too long, I don't know where we have to pinpoint it, but, we allow people to tell us that, that we're strong and independent and, we're doing it on our own and we're working on our own thing. And we need to, as Imam Amin alluded to, we need to do more of collectively working on our own thing. And sometimes that might come off as, being separatist or being segregational, but it's not really that. We've been the people who've been, attacked, on all fronts and having things taken away from us. And, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing us back to his religion, right? And we have to, filter through all of that stuff that kept us away from each other, that pitted us against each other, that makes the young envy the old, makes the old, condemn the young. Men and women don't have any harmony. We have a lot of dysfunction, a lot of trauma, a lot of broken things that we have to, fix. And then it's not like we have time to just, take a break and do it. We got to do on the job training, on the job motivation. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, we're in survival mode, but we got to break out of it on some level, And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, give us tawfiq and facilitate it for us. Yeah, I don't really have much, man, because I missed a lot. That basement trip kind of spooked me out.
So I wanted to touch a few points that that are very important. And from the conference, there are several things that I wanted to touch upon. One of the things that I expressed with some of the organizers, because we had some talks and some leaders and influential imams, because there was a lot of imams from that area, Chicago, Ohio, Indianapolis, that area around the Midwest. And I got to talk to a lot of people. And one of the things that we need to work on is everybody knowing their skill set, capacity, and where it fits into the collective. We have people doing things that they're not capable of doing, either by skill set or just inability. You're not able to do what you're talking about, and you don't have the skills to do what you're talking about. And one of the things we have is you have leaders in different areas, and those leaders may not be the leader. Sometimes we'll take, I'm an activist, I'm an organizer, I'm not an imam or a sheikh. But I want my organizing, my activism to go over the position of the imam or the sheikh. But I don't know Islam, I've never studied, I don't know anything, and I'm trying to be the voice of Islam in our community, and I don't know Islam. I don't even know my personal obligatory knowledge. I should not be the voice of Islam. I should be a voice of organizing under the leadership of teachers who know Islam. Do y'all follow this point? So, if you got people being the leader of a Muslim movement but don't know Islam well, that's not their position. It doesn't mean you don't have a position. It's just not that, right? And each of us got to know our skill set. Like Imam Naeem said, I'm not able to do that, but I'm able to do this. What can you do? The skill set resources should be properly placed. I'll give you an example. And this was one of the things we need to work on. They had this conference for 4 days, right? Four days, this huge program. So Thursday, Friday, flip it over, Saturday, all these tracks and programs, right? All these rooms rented out. And you read different speakers, so many, right? And one thing I noticed when I'm looking at all this, lot of stuff. And here's the black track. Where's it, Saturday? The black track. Is right here. This is us. This row right here. All this is going on at the same time, right? But here's the black track, right? Four spots. But look at all the spots. Look at all the spots each day. And then you come Saturday, you got this little section for the African American track. So we're in their house with a little room. So you see how small our room was, right? I want to show you that for a reason, not to criticize. I'm showing you something. So all these events are going on in all these days. So you're talking about an average of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sessions going on at the simultaneously throughout the day. 8 different sessions, right? So throughout the day, you got 8 different sessions simultaneously going on. And then at night, you got these big sessions, right? But here's the catch. When you look at all these sessions, so you're talking about 32, 64, 96 something sessions and more, over 100 and something sessions that went on. Do you know none of those sessions talked about the religious beliefs that we have, our religious obligations in terms of ibadah or mu'amalat or marriage, divorce, or really dealing with our spiritual, the core issues of the sacred law are never covered. So we was there 4 days and we never even covered a small text of the religious knowledge. That's something we should fix. But the result of that is that the people who are organizing are not in their fields of religious learning. Do you understand my point? So religion and religious learning, which we need, because everyone here, if we're having these gatherings, need to know their personal obligatory religious knowledge. So it should be some sessions that are designed to teach our people. And that's everybody. I'm not talking about just Black people or African Americans. Everybody. We'll have these gatherings and a person came in not knowing their obligations, left out not knowing their obligations, but they feel good. We need to fix that. In all of our gatherings, we should not have a gathering where there's not a portion of true learning Islamic knowledge. Not lectures, actual texts that we can take home, that we can learn and implement and spread in our communities. This, if it's one thing that needs to be adjusted, we need to fix that. And when we gather, it should always be there. And it should be a part of the thinking of the gatherings. We should stop having religious gatherings that are not religious. I'll repeat that. We should stop having religious gatherings that are not religious. I didn't say stop having gatherings. So that means we need to add the religion into our gatherings. Lectures, feel-good talks, special topics is not learning the religion. We need to fix that. This is a major issue for me. As a religious person, as a teacher, as an imam, I find that highly offensive that we gather and we don't learn the religion. That's offensive. And we should fix it. And I'm not saying, because some people don't know how to pray. They don't know what to believe. They don't know how to fast. They don't know how to perform zakat. They don't know the rules of the religion a lot. And we facilitate nothing for them when we're gathered and they're free to do just that. It don't got to take up all the program. It should just be a portion. And all of those sessions, you could have had all-day session every day with different teachers doing the personal obligatory knowledge of the religion. In 3 days, you could have covered a summary and for instance, in every school, a small summarized book, 50 pages, 100 pages, just reading and brief explanation. And you could have had it in one room and say, this is the room for the Hanafis, this is going to be the room for the Shafis, the Malikis, the Hanbalis. You need to go learn. And it's available. Everybody don't got it. It's not mandatory. But for those who need to learn, these are tracks. In addition to we doing all this other stuff too. That's something that I would like to see us improve upon. It is something that we need to work on collectively, especially us as a community, because for us, we really have been denied access to learning collectively. So when we have that opportunity, we have to do it. So that's one thing. And I say this because I know some of us, it's not a criticism of we having events. We're just saying how we can improve and what we need that is essential that we're missing. That's it. I don't want nobody to say, Imam Amin come and he's criticizing us. He's all hard. No, I'm not criticizing. I'm not. I'm saying these are challenges that we need to overcome. They're obstacles because I'm thinking long term. Right? And the fact of disagreeing tells me why we need to learn. The fact that I disagree tells me, yep, we need to learn. Let me explain something too, because we did do tasawwuf. We did talk about some aspect of, and I was the one talking about it, right? There is no tasawwuf without aqidah, proper aqidah and fiqh. There is no Sufism if you don't know proper aqidah and proper fiqh. And anyone who learns tasawwuf will learn from the masters of Sufism that there is no Sufism without al-aqidatu sahiha, with the proper belief, and ahkam al-fiqhiyya, the fiqh rulings. There is no tasawwuf. There's no such thing as a Sufi who don't know how to properly believe or practice the religion. Please fix that false notion. There is no ignorant tasawwuf. Absolutely not. And that's why the Wahhabis get to spread about tasawwuf being deviants, because ignorant people acting like they Sufis without learning the religion. This is a problem. There is no such thing as tasawwuf without the sacred law. And there is no sacred law without sound belief. Please highlight that point. And if anyone ever tells you that you can be a Sufi without learning Aqidah and Fiqh, that person is a devil. A devil, shaitan in the human form. So this idea we Sufis, no such thing as a Sufi who doesn't know what to believe properly about Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, what to believe about the prophets, what to believe about the unseen, and to know the rules of al-fiqh in every action they deal with. That's a real Sufi. And that's why in the hadith of Jibril, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned al-Islam, al-Iman, then al-Ihsan. He didn't mention Ihsan first. You need to know the proper understanding of the deen. This is a mistake. And it's a mistake by the consensus of the Sufis, right? As Imam Junaid said, that our way, tariquna hadha muqayyidun bil kitab was sunnah. It is something that is restricted, refined by the book and the sunnah, by the sacred law. I'm emphasizing because some of us, we have this movement, and I met some of them. I'm a Sufi. How are you a Sufi and you don't follow the sacred law? What kind of Sufi are you? No, absolutely not. I just want to be Sufi. Really what you're saying, I just want to feel good. Right? That's what you're really saying. I just, I'm spiritual. I don't need no rules. No Sufi is just spiritual. Sufis got rules, right? And they're the rules of the sacred law. So I just want us to get that, because, you know, Imam Malik said, rahimahullah, whoever practices fiqh without tasawwuf will destroy themselves. And whoever practices tasawwuf without fiqh will destroy the religion. It is the one who joins between the two who has reached reality. You can't do one without the other. There is Sharia, Tariqa, Haqiqa. It doesn't go the opposite way. Haqiqa, Tariqa, Sharia. No, the other way. Sharia, Tariqa, Haqiqa. So there is no Haqiqa without the Sharia. Please get this in your mind. I hate to deviate, but we got this goofy Sufi stuff. This is not Islam. This is what the Europeans try to put on us so they can destroy the Islam through spirituality. You know, that's the Orientalists. You know, you could just be Sufi. You know, Sufi is a religion. No, Sufism is not a religion. Sufism is a part of the deen of Islam. It's not separate. It's not some separate group. La. So a Sunni Muslim has an Aqidah, Ash'ari Maturidi. They follow a madhab, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, or Hanbali, and they follow the way of spirituality at tasawwuf. That's a Sunni Muslim. If any of that's missing, a portion of their Sunniism is missing. Know that for sure. If any of that is missing, a portion of their Sunniism is missing. To be Ahl Sunnah, that's Ahl Sunnah. If any of that's missing, that portion of their Ahl Sunnah is gone out the window. Don't be fooled. And while I'm at it, since I'm on a roll, right? There is no such thing as a Wahhabi Azhari. There are Wahhabis who went to Azhari, but they're not Azhar. There are Wahhabis who went to Al-Azhar, but they're not Azhari. Did y'all hear that? There are Wahhabis who graduated from Al-Azhar, but they're not Azhari. There is a difference. Since I'm just for good measure, because we have this problem too. He's an Azhari, he's Wahhabi, that's what he is. He's a Wahhabi who snuck into Azhar and got a cap. Azhar is Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Ash'ari Maturidi, following one of the four schools, following Tasawwuf, that's an Azhari. And even if they never graduated, that person's an Azhari. And this one who graduated, top of his class if he wanted to, and he has that deviant aqidah and that deviant practice, he's not Azhari. He could take that paper and put it after moving the name of Allah and any blessed name and put it in the trash. Because he shouldn't put it with the name of Allah or the Prophet in the trash. So he should remove all that, and the rest of it, he can throw it in the garbage. It don't mean nothing. If that's what he learned from, that's what he's using it for. He is a covering. And some people use tasawwuf as a covering to destroy Islam. We Sufi, we're nice. Yeah, but you're deviant. You think Allah indwells in you. What are you talking about? All right. Now, I address that because it's important. So that's one. We need to fix this not learning stuff, because there's a nice way to destroy Islam within Islam. And that's a concentrated effort right now to ruin and destroy our tradition in the name of Islam. That's why there's no teaching, because it's being replaced with some new stuff. That's why there's no books. That's why there's no chains of narration. That's why there's no scholars, because what they're doing is reforming Islam in the name of Islam so that we don't have a tradition after a while. Watch this stuff. It's really a problem. And I'm watching it. And we don't learn, so we don't even identify it. Because we don't know our religion ourselves. We don't learn. We just into the feel good mode. It felt good. And that's cool. You should feel good. We want us to feel good, but we should learn our religion. We should learn our religion well. I ain't saying you got to be a scholar. I said far'ain. I didn't say that you're a scholar. I said you know your basics of the religion. And I'm talking about the very basics, the stuff you have to know. If you don't know it, you're a major sinner. That is being ignored. We cannot ignore this. We have to fix it. And even if we have to fix it locally, like we are trying to go around, you should have it where these things are continuous and they're staple foods of our community. You can't go to the masjid and there's no learning. You go to the conference, there's no learning. Go to the masjid, there's no learning. When are we going to learn? Everywhere we go, there's no books, no structure, no chains of narration, nothing. How are we ever going to learn? Really? From where? This is important. That's one thing we need to improve on. And even if it sounds harsh the way I'm saying it, I don't mean it. I mean, we need to learn. And when we gather together, you can't come together and we don't learn. It's not just feel good and enjoy ourselves. We need to learn our religion because our practice depends on learning. If we don't learn, we can't practice because we don't know. And that's why Imam al-Bukhari, he said, al-ilmu qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Knowledge must precede every statement and action. If you don't know, you can't practice. It's impossible. Mustahil. You cannot do it. So we have to get this issue together. Learning is important, and we have to have proper learning with real scholarly learning in terms of relied upon trustworthy texts, qualified, tested, improving teachers, and connections and chains of narrations and aspiring students. This must exist in our communities, in the Black community. It must be normal, not something strange. Everywhere we go, this is what we do. This is normal. These are the books we learned. These are the teachers we learned from. These are our chains of narration, and that's generational. And we need to become a part of that continuing legacy. Right? This is important because we're going generations, if we talk about legacy, of not learning our religion. And every 50 years, we get hoodwinked. No. And here's my thing. You don't have to be a scholar. There's a certain portion of religious knowledge you're not excused. If you're morally responsible, you're obligated to learn. It's not advanced stuff. Stop being so lazy. Us, collectively, we cannot be lazy. It doesn't take years to learn what I'm talking about. It literally, if we sat down, we can learn it in hours. What we need to know. You got to review. You got to go over. You got to repeat. But actually, what you need to know, we can learn it in a couple hours with a proficient teacher. You need to learn this. You need to learn this. You need to learn this. Here's the text. We're going to read it over. We're going to study. We're going to review. That's not hard. I mean, really, we're making stuff that's obligatory like it's optional. It's not optional. Just like you have to eat, just like you have to sleep, just like you have to go to Mr. Charlie's or your business or you die, you have to learn your religion or you die. You become a grave before you enter the grave. It's an obligation. It's not negotiable. You can't, take it easy. No, you need to learn. Not take it easy. You've been taking it easy too long. That's why we're in the condition we're in. We need to learn. There's no take it easy. Take it easy after we learn. And that's from heart to heart. Because we'll take it easy all day. And we'll take it easy till we don't exist no more. To everyone, we're the laughing stock of the world. Because we never learned. Do y'all follow my point? It's very important. I'm emphasizing it. I'm very passionate about it because we act like it ain't serious. Guy been praying for 20 years and don't know the rules of prayer. This is a crime. fast every Ramadan and don't know the rules of fasting. Go on Umrah in a group and don't know how to perform Umrah properly. And then come back talking about I'm Haji and then validated the Hajj before you left. Right? No, this is something we got to fix. I'm not trying to be harsh, but you know, if I see my child playing with the stove, I'm not going to say, "Oh, don't worry, it's fire. It won't burn you." No, it's going to burn you. Please. I'm going to maybe talk nice to you and gently, but eventually I'm going to pop your hands. Don't touch that fire, because I don't want you to get hurt. Right? If y'all got my point. All right, I went off on that a little bit because stuff I see, I realize it can be fixed in 5 seconds, but we don't address it. You see we got all these youth. They could learn. We could teach them. And they could be knowledgeable. It's important, right? But here's the catch. We get to the point we're destroying our tradition within. So this idea of Quran and Sunnah, it gets into the mind of common people that all of us are scholars. And therefore, you don't follow madhahib, you don't follow the curriculum that has been passed down for generation after generation. You're trying to make your own religion based on your own understanding, and you don't even have any knowledge. Catch that. It's been this Quran and Sunnah stuff, and it's given to common people, and common people now, based on this false understanding, are trying to do the work of scholars without the skill set. And what they're doing is destroying the religion and redoing the religion in a way you're sitting talking about legal rulings with no legal authority. And as if it doesn't exist, when it's been existing for almost 1,400 years in a codified system, and we've been deprived of it. You're doing the work of hundreds of thousands of learned specialists all across the sacred law, and you trying to do that by yourself with no experience, and you actually think it's authoritative. And how are we going to survive with people who study at highest levels to undermine Islam, and you're not even studying at a basic level to preserve Islam? This doesn't work. There's another conversation, but all right, let me stop there. The other point, that one grinds my gears, because if we get this issue, the rest of the stuff will probably be much easier, right? And even if it comes off a little bit rough, it's like, listen, man, we got to get this together. It's killing us, right? The other issue is that we got to stop thinking that collectively fundraising so that we can do this work is begging. This is killing us. Our concept of fundraising and supporting our efforts is self-defeatist. The way we look at it. Do you know they had 45,000 people? We made up, let's give us some good generous numbers. I don't know. Let's say we made up 2,000 of that 45. And I'm exaggerating big time, right? But let's exaggerate for the purpose of don't make it look like bad. So out of 45,000 people, let's say it was 2,000 African Americans, right? They had all these lectures all over the whole convention center, the hotels. They had, even when you walk, QR codes for fundraising, for everything that had nothing to do with us, all over the place, right? After speeches, fundraising on the big stage with thousands and tens of thousands of people, fundraising. They were not shy about it. They spent the money on big speakers with big names so they could do that fundraising. And there's nothing wrong with that. Why, when it's us, we got to look at it, we begging? Why? You couldn't walk from the hotel to the convention unless you saw at least 10 minimum different fundraising efforts going on. Fundraising efforts. And I never heard nobody say why they're begging. Not once. All those days, they were fundraising. I never heard nobody say why they're begging. Not one. At least I didn't hear that. And most of the money, we actually don't know where the heck it's going. And it ain't our money anyway, but I'm talking about just in general. Now we're talking about our own things, which is right in front of us. We see it. We see the work. We see what we need. We see the conditions of our communities, and we are afraid to fundraise. And most of us don't want to do the fundraising because it feels like begging. We got to fix that. So if we should have learned something, we should have learned. I look at this. Look at all these organizations. You see all them organizations? All of them fundraising, right? Fundraising. Why for us we afraid for our own efforts? And they have, listen, they spent millions of dollars doing that. Most of our communities would be taken care of with $100,000. Unless, I ain't really, 30,000 would help most of our communities. You're talking about millions. 30,000 would help your community. And we hesitate, but they're doing that. That's why they got those masjids with chandeliers and from the ground up all over the country, while we stand in buildings that we're busy trying to fix, hoping the roof don't cave in on you. Do you understand my point? They're not going to give it to you. You got to do that. This is an issue. If you don't control the economics and the resources in your own community, your community will never grow. This is something we got to get over. And even as leaders in our communities, we have to get over with the concept of, man, I'm tired of begging. Now you're not begging, you fundraising, bro, and you better do it or we're not going to survive. Because I don't care how good you are, you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself. None of us can. We need each other desperately to do our work, right? And all we have to ensure is that we're doing it. And we're available. Come and be around your community and see the work of your leaders on the ground. They work. They deserve your support. They sacrifice their entire life and their families and their children to serve us. Why we don't support our own stuff? We have to support our own stuff. It's obligatory for us. It's a crime for us to neglect it, but we neglect it. We need certain things in place. We have to pay for it. Especially we live in the West, nothing is free. And I watched them. They was diligent on getting that, as Imam Faheem said, getting that bread. They was on it. They was getting, and they didn't mind spending bread to get bread. Imam, don't say that. Right? What you was getting ready to say. Don't do that. Guess what? I'm going to say it nice. They're going to make bread off of us. They're going to use the African-American tract to make more bread for themselves. And whatever they spent to do it, may Allah reward them. Trust me, that's coming back at least triple. Whatever they spent to facilitate our room in their house, that's going to come back in generous donations triple. And it ain't going to be $500. Trust me. So for us, we need, and listen, they should do it. Ain't nothing wrong with what they're doing. My thing is that we need to do it. You follow my point? As Imam Naeem was speaking about Africa, the French was doing their stuff. They said, hold up. Nah. Give us our resources back, and we need to benefit from our resources. We need to do that. And we shouldn't be jealous of them doing the work they do. That's what they should do. And we should say, alhamdulillah, may Allah make you successful. But what about with us? What about us? This is a necessary thing. I swear, I never want us to be jealous of what others are doing. We should be motivated and inspired to know what we should be doing. And this is a point that I'm making. So, because I'm looking, we can't compete. They're going to control the whole narrative with that, with their bankroll. If we don't start, we're going to be obsolete. And we are, because we live in America. They're going to take some of that money. They're going to be lobbying. They're going to be doing everything. And we're not going to be the ones they're lobbying for. So we need to learn something. And if we're ever going to come to the table with any honor and dignity and respect, we have to be collectively financially supported. Our leaders can't go to the table weak. They got to go to the table supported and strong. When they sit at the table, they can't sit as the table saying, yes, boss, I'm glad to be here. They got to sit at the table and say, here's our contribution, and here is what we demand for our participation. That's how the leader has to sit at the table. He cannot sit at the table as, thank you, I'm glad I'm here. What you think? Right? No, it doesn't work. If y'all follow what I'm saying. And I mean it in the nicest way possibly, but sometimes we need to be shaken up. Right? And we'll take some questions after Imam Faheem or Imam Naeem. There's a bunch of questions. I want to try to hit some of them.
Yeah, we can go to the questions.
Do y'all see some that are
worth answering?
Yeah. I mean, there's always some stuff that's not.
Yeah.
Just look and see if you see.
Yeah, there was one by Sister Malika. It says, question imams, in order to bring the blueprint and nasiya from tonight's roundtable, what incentive do we give or get or need to take away the laziness, the procrastination, and fear that our people have that blocks us from excelling as a prosperous ummah? Laziness and procrastination is our main problem.
I think we got to find someone that we trust, even if it's not us. Find someone you really trust and you support that person or that masjid or that group of imams. It don't have to be us. Maybe you don't trust us. That's fine. But find somebody you trust. And I think that was the issue with the sister was talking about. Find somebody you're going to listen to. Stop doing your own stuff. You may be good at doing a part of it, but you can't do the whole thing. So you need to be under some leadership. All of us need to find someone that we willing to follow. And some of us have to be willing to lead. And we need to get this leadership, followership thing together. So actually find someone whom you trust, right? And like I said, don't have to be us. I would like it to be us because I believe we know what we're doing and we have a direction. Because trust me, if I had the support, I'm speaking me personally, if I had your support, that obligatory knowledge thing would be taken care of, inshallah. If I had your support and I could hire and fund teachers, we would tear this thing apart with knowledge. But I'm one person. I have family. I have a masjid. I cannot do it, right? Because we have the teachers. And I know y'all say, oh, they should do it for free. They got to eat too. They have children too. They got to pay bills. You don't work for free. None of us. All of us go to Mr. Charlie's or whatever we're doing, and we expect a compensation for our hard work. Well, so is the teachers. So are the sheikhs. They got to eat too. They're not monks and nuns. They have to eat. They have to take care of their children. They have to, and they still have to study, and they have to do all that. How are they going to do that if no one supports them? And if they go get jobs and they're working in careers, then they can't teach because they got to go to work. You know how many students I know that we sent overseas to study and they can't teach because they're working for Mr. Charlie? Man, I could come, man, I'm tired. I just work 10-hour days. Man, I could give you an hour, Sheikh. I'm you know, a lot. This guy studied overseas for years. They studied under sheikhs. They got ijazahs. And he got to go to Mr. Charlie's because we don't want to support. That don't even make no sense. But for us, it's perfectly fine because I don't really want to learn anyway. So, no, we got to fix this issue. That's my thoughts about that. Find someone you trust. Find someone you're willing to support. Find someone you're willing to sacrifice for. Right? Find a masjid that you believe in. Stop doing your own thing. I'm talking about us collectively. I'm not talking about any one individual. All of us need to belong to a community under an imam with some leadership. And if you say it ain't nobody, then that means you ruined. It's no one you can trust, no one you can follow, no one you believe in, no one who you think is on the right path. You got a problem. And it ain't the people you talking about ain't on the right path. It's you. Find someone you trust and someone you can listen to and someone you can follow and someone you can learn from and someone you can support. Whoever that may be. But get somebody. That would be my advice. What was the action plan for after the program was it discussed? Also, what lack of central leadership discussed? All those issues were not fully addressed and they still need to be addressed. Inshallah, we were just happy to be there at this stage. We still have a lot of work to do. And I believe we're going to do that work, but it takes all of us. But the answer to your question, actually, we weren't left with real marching orders. We were left with, mashallah, at least we came together. That's something that we got to work on. I'm not saying that it's not, and I believe me, we're going to push collectively to work on it. But it wasn't addressed at all. It was indications of things we could do, but it wasn't like put forward. And that takes work. And I'll tell you really the reason why. Because we're not used to us supporting each other. So when we're organizing, we're like just hoping that somebody would give us some support. We're not even thinking sometimes like the next step because we're trying to take a step in the beginning. So that's a support issue too. Trust me, in my honest belief. And Allah knows best. Y'all see more questions?
Yes, a couple more. Let's see. One says, this is Abdul Hakim from Richmond, Virginia. Assalamu alaikum, Imams. I was wondering, can one teach a book without ijazah? They have went over the book with their teacher, though.
Yes. As Sheikh Samir told me, did you learn? Did you study? Did you understand? That's your ijazah. Did you learn? Did you understand? That is your ijazah. So whether the sheikh gives you an ijazah or no ijazah, if you taught, you sat with the teacher a teacher, not to even be a sheikh. You understood the text. You understood it properly. That is your ijazah. That's your ijazah. And you're obligated to convey it. You notice I said, did you understand? So a lot of times we sat, but we were not listening or paying attention, or we didn't understand. You're not qualified to convey. You need to go back and understand. That doesn't mean you're perfect. You may make mistakes. I'm talking about, but did you understand the text? Did you understand the cases that you were learning in a way? If so, then go, there you go, convey it. But convey what you understood. Don't convey what you didn't understand. And if you are mistaken, because we're humans, we make mistakes, make sure you correct it. Don't leave it. If you are spreading something and you discover that you misunderstood, correct it. Don't just leave it. No, I made a mistake. I misunderstood. I misunderstood this case. And the correction is this. Be humble in that. And we need all hands on deck. Everybody, whatever you learn, we got to reach one, teach one, how they say it. Because we don't have a bunch of qualified teachers that are centralized, that we can put them and say, here are our teachers, and this is what he can teach. And we don't got it like that yet. We're still trying to formulate that as a community.
Okay, there's a question for Imam Naeem. In terms of the Maliki method, which text should one start with to learn their Fard Ain, and what does the pathway look like? Jazakumullahu khairan, ya shuyukh.
You can start with the Bismillah. You can start with the Akhdari, and like I said on here before, I believe that you should learn horizontally as much as possible, and then move vertically. In other words, learn more than one book on that same basic level, and then move up to a slightly higher level. So you can learn books, all of which I'm going to learn on. I'm going to mention on the basic level, like the Akhdari, Mutasar Akhdari, the Ashmawiya, Ibn Ashir, and those books like that. They're on the basic level, and all of those books have commentaries, so you can learn those books with a teacher, more than one teacher, right? Because each of those books, they cover maybe an aspect of an issue that the other one didn't mention, and stuff like that. And then you can move up to the Izziya and up and up and up. So that's my recommendation. But I do want to say one thing. When I was speaking earlier, and I used something that's happening in Africa as an example, I hope I didn't take y'all to Africa and leave you there. The whole point was to take you to Africa and bring you back here to help you see your situation here clearer. I hope that's clear, because I'm going to mention something else. Again, using Africa as an example, because there's some big lessons in it for us here, and we're experiencing it right now. But a lot of times we don't recognize what's happening. So let me go back to those three countries: Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. Remember, don't get stuck there. Just using them as an example. A lot of times when we trying to explain things and we're making a point, a lot of people get stuck on the side issue of what we mentioned, and they forget the major point. We don't want you to forget the major point, right?
Imam Naeem, what you're saying is extremely important. Please clarify well. Some people got left in Africa.
Yeah. So going to Africa, right? Remember, the stop is in Africa. This is a round trip. We're coming back to America. This is not a one-way trip. Round trip. First stop, Africa. Next stop, back home in America, right? Keep focused, right? Those three countries, when they broke away from the French, they also broke away from a group of African countries. There's about 15 of them, called ECOWAS, Economic Community West African States, something like that. It was supposed to be like Africa's version of the European Union, where it's supposed to make trade easy between the African countries, whatever, right? So they also had to break away from ECOWAS, those other African countries, because they ain't want to be under the French no more. And the other countries like, why you making Massa mad? You know, we're going to be mad at you because you making Massa mad. Right? If you're able to look at a map without going away from this live stream, if you're not able to, do it afterwards. Those three countries are landlocked, meaning none of those countries are by the sea. They're not, none of them by the Atlantic Ocean. And most of the goods, merchandise that travel around the world is transported by means of ship, boats, not airplanes. So when those three countries made their move, those other African countries was like, well, y'all not going to be able to trade going across our lands. I don't know how you're going to get your merchandise in or out. So they tried to hurt them economically. Other African countries, not the European ones, the African ones. And so this has been going on. And Morocco reached out to them and said, we'll help you out. We're by the Atlantic Ocean. And people are like, whoa, we wouldn't expect the help from you, subhanAllah. You're Berbers and Arabs. Allahu Akbar. So they're in negotiation. And so while Imam Amin was talking, in my mind, that mass conference was kind of like Morocco offering to help out, right? But there's two lessons that I want you to take away from that situation, which relates to us. Number one, when you make moves to be independent of your oppressor and do for self, your enemies will look just like you, and they will be from among you. The opposition that they are getting is from other Africans blocking their trade. You know, they shut down. A lot of people died because of other African countries shutting down electricity because the electricity was going through their country and they shut them down. Babies died in the hospital. Who did it? Other Africans, not Europeans. So you have to understand what we're talking about. A lot of our enemies are going to look just like us, and they're going to be from among us. They're going to attack us. They're going to undermine us. They're going to come in our conversations and troll and try to redirect the conversation, ask questions that ain't got nothing to do with the subject, or try to ask incendiary questions to try to trigger someone else. All of that distraction tactics. That's what your enemy does. They're never going to put that $10 in. They're going to have the most comments, but they'll never put the $10 in. They'll never put $5 in, but they have the most to say. Most comments, most questions. Every time an idea is put forward or something is mentioned, they have the counter argument right there. That's done for a reason. It's not an accident. So pay attention when we come on live and we're discussing. There's always going to be some people that's going to be like, you know, okay, you said, you know, 5 + 5 = 10. But, you know, if you use another equation, it could be 11, right? They're always going to say something to undermine what we're talking about. And they're going to look just like us. Part of their job is to kill the momentum. So the opposition, a lot of times a lot of us, when we talk about the Black Imams Roundtable, and a lot of y'all are thinking that the opposition is going to come from non-Black Muslims. No, the opposition is coming from Black Muslims. That's where the opposition is coming from. That's where the hate is coming from. I know people that every time one of us posts or we do a Black Imams Roundtable, they get triggered and they post against us all the time. I can give you a real few examples, but I don't want to mention anyone or even allude to the people, right? I'm like, man, subhanAllah, if you don't agree with what you're doing, just keep scrolling or don't listen. But nah, they're like, nah, I got to stay here. I got to disrupt. I got to discredit. I got to undermine. I got to rally support against. And they look just like us. So don't think that the big support, the big opposition, a big enemy is going to come from outside. No, it's going to come from people that look just like us and would serve the benefit just as much as us. But for whatever reason, Allah placed it in their hearts that they wanted to be opposition, right? And the second issue that emerges from this already mentioned is that sometimes, on occasion, you may get support from people who are not you, like the Moroccans, right? And I wonder how they're going to work that thing out, because there's a country between them and Morocco. So the trade, I wonder how they're going to do it, right? But just like, alhamdulillah, mass opened the door for Manna and the Black American Muslim community to do something on their platform. The same way Morocco opened the doors, opened the ports for them, those countries, to be able to trade, even when their own Black African Muslim brothers are fighting against them. And a lot of what Imam Amin has been talking about is something that Muhammad Abdu, and I don't need to explain him. Maybe some of you can put in the comments who he was, because I know some of you know, the companion of Jamaluddin Afghani. In their communications with each other, they said what Imam Amin said is happening to us. The way Muhammad Abdu put it, he said, we're going to cut off the head of the religion with the sword of the religion. Cut off the head of the religion with the sword of the religion. In other words, we're going to use the deen to undermine the deen. That's what's happening now. Like Imam Amin said, go to the Masjid, no learning about the basics. Go to Islamic conference, no, don't learn no Islam. Everywhere, nobody learning, right? So, but all of this was talked about already. And so, we actually are living it. You can be around Muslims, interact with Muslims, spend a whole weekend with Muslims, and still don't know anything more than you did when you came there, and especially those things that you need to get into Jannah, to get your prayers answered, the basic things. So this is our situation. We have to break out of that. So I wanted to mention that stuff. And another thing I need to mention. Imam Amin talked about doing your own stuff. I wish I can be specific, but I can't. There's several examples from the past and present that I can give. But you doing your own thing, the people who get hurt the most are the women and the children. They get hurt the most when you insist on not putting yourself under no leadership and not putting yourself to be an integral part of an active community, right? When you use Islamic leadership like Walmart, when you go to that leader, you want to buy that, okay, I want to get married, I want to go to that imam. Okay, I need to get divorced, I'm going to go to that imam. Okay, I need some counsel, let me go to that imam. All right. When we treat the deen like that, the one who gets hurt the most is the women and the children. And some people want you to keep it like that. But sisters, I'm speaking to the sisters. If you just pay attention, when you out there in limbo in your situation, when you need help and nobody knows you or you're not connected, you live far away from any community that you trust, you're the one that's going to be hurt. And don't say we didn't tell you. I just wanted to say that just doing your own stuff is killing us. I'm sorry, go ahead. I know you asked a question, but I had to squeeze that stuff in.
I think there's one last question, Imam Amin, and it says, we need an all-Imam conference. Why haven't one of you tried to organize something like that? That's what's needed. What's your thoughts on that? I'd like to hear from all three of you on that idea.
I'll go first because I'm long-winded in that. And I need to sometimes just relax. Because seriously, I think y'all need to understand something about me. When I saw Imam Siraj, I love Imam Siraj. But in my heart, I want to cry for what we do to our leaders. Because I imagine, because we're in the same work. So when I get his age, it's like seeing myself down the road. And it's painful. Because I'm actually doing the work. See, a lot of us is just keyboard warriors. You don't do anything but get on that computer and talk junk. If I put you on the ground, you're going to fold like a chair, right? You don't deal with it. You're not on the ground. You are on the computer talking junk. You don't deal with what we deal with in our communities or in real time. You're really a coward. And you got an excuse called the internet. You get to get on the line and be like, mashallah, sheikh, you are a punk. That's really what you are. Because real men take on real problems. Real men are on the front lines of defending our community against all invasions. So those guys, those leaders that he was talking about in those African countries, they willing to die. They on the front line. They in there. They're not cheerleaders. I know we don't like to hear that because you ain't really men. And that's why the women get hurt, because there ain't a lot of men there to protect them. I'm just being honest. And this is not something we say on the internet. We're actually on the ground every single day dealing with the issues. And when I look at Imam Siraj, that's 40, 50 years on the ground of dealing with us. And at the end of it, we just say, alhamdulillah, thank you, and all the work is taken over by someone else. Nah, we can't keep doing that. That's not fair. That's not showing appreciation for someone who sacrificed their whole life for us. And I'm keeping it real. I know you might not, well, Imam Amin, you guys offensive. Yeah. You offensive for being so damn soft. Like, seriously. I'll be honest. But I get you what? I bet you one thing with us. We'll challenge that black imam. We'll stand up. We'll be ready. We'll actually kill him. But the ones who are ripping our communities apart, we won't even look at them with a heart. Won't raise a word. Won't say nothing. So, I feel that way. I do. Because I'm on the ground. And any of you know me, I'm on the ground. Like every other black imam. Very few of our imams ain't giving everything they got, everything. We don't got imams that just sitting around collecting a check and, reading Riyadh al-Salihin and coming for the 5 prayers, and that's it. Our imams are dealing with every single issue in our community. For the women, for the children, for the elders, for the building, for the community. Our imams are soldiers. And we ain't no way some half-baked, fake keyboard warrior gonna come tell us anything about leadership. And you won't even go clean the bathroom. Man, you don't get out my face. That's me. So trust me, listen, can't even get you to clean the bathroom. And you come to Friday, sit on the rug for a couple of minutes and go about your business. Won't even pick up your own trash. And you don't get out my face. Like, I don't know why I don't like that, seriously. And you want me to stroke your head and say, oh, I'm sorry, Barakallahu feek, brother, mashallah. No, you need to be smacked, seriously. Somebody need to turn you into a man. So the imam don't have to work that hard because he got soldiers next to him. But I know that's why we have to have our own, so I can be honest with you. I don't gotta be politically correct because ain't nobody funding me, right? Ain't nobody saying here, and if you make me mad, I'm gonna take your salary away. I don't need you. You could quit, honestly, because you ain't doing nothing anyway. I never forget the statement of one of my Salafi imams. And like I said, I don't agree with Salafi stuff. But as a black man, we got the same problem. As a black imam and a black leader, we got the same problem. And he told me the story, and I never forget it, because he got canceled. And they came to him, they were like, 40 families left your community. 40 families. And he looked at him. He said, check the Sadaqah box. I'll never forget this. They're like, what you mean check? He said, check the Sadaqah box. You got 40 whole families that left my masjid and joined you. 40 families. Check the Sadaqah box. He said, what's the difference? He said, nothing. He said, good bums. I'm glad they left. They was killing us. And he built after that. When those people left, the community began to thrive and get better, financially stable, able, because he have a bunch of weights of people who don't want to work. They just talking, ain't doing nothing. Like Imam Naim said, you just talking. You ain't did nothing. Because if you working, you're going to see what's needed. If you're a real worker and you on the ground, you don't got time to complain because you got to get to work. You see that the workers in there are tired. They don't get a break, and you chip in. You don't come to the gathering and just say, we'll start with the food, what we have in Assalamu alaikum, where's the time? Nah, you get in that kitchen and help cook. You come carry bags. You empty trash. You fund so that the masjid can grow. That's what you do as a person that's involved. And I mean that because we need to have real talks. And if this real talk just inspire one person, not even the one who's on the computer talking junk, the one person who realized, you know what? We deserve better. If one person gets that, one person get that message, it's worth the whole conversation. Because we're trying to get one soldier at a time. Because most of us ain't cut for soldiers. And if I can jump something, Imam Faheem, real quick. Malika had a question, and I want to share related to what I'm saying. How about use some Ansar community tactics, but put us out on the streets, foot soldiers doing da'wah and fundraise? You know why? We don't got those kind of men. I'll answer you, it's impossible for us to do that with the kind of men we got. They came to Sayyidina Ali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and they said, when Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman was there, we didn't have these kind of problems, all this fitna. Now you the leader, we got all this fitna. Sayyidina Ali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said to them, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, they had men like me. I got men like you. There's a difference. Abu Bakr had Ali ibn Abi Talib, the lion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Umar had him. Uthman had him. You guys, rebels. Y'all opposing the leadership. We supported the leadership. We sacrificed for the leadership. We fought for the leadership. We shed our blood for the leadership. You oppose leadership. There's a difference. There's a big difference. And I guarantee you, the one you hear talking about what we did too harsh, they don't have a leader. I guarantee you. You go visit them on the ground where they're at in the community. The Imam is talking about that joker. Right? That's reality. Ansars, they had deviant belief, but they were soldiers. They were soldiers. And I lived it, so I'm not talking. They were soldiers. 365 days a year, no days off. Maybe once in a blue moon, you got half the day off for the Eid, but every day you working. And you can't come with no lazy excuse, or they're going to beat your lights out. There's a difference. Am I saying halal, haram? We're not talking about, I know you can't be beating up a Muslim. I know, that's true. But there was a consequence. In those days, you ain't make your money Friday, count on it. They're going to see you. Count on it. Count on it. And I can tell you, if anyone among us has ever been in the Ansar community, Friday after Jumu'ah, or before sometimes, or Thursday night, there was a crew of people If you didn't make your responsibilities, they come in to see you. Count on it. They come in to see you. And guess what? I don't care who you are, what you could do, they're going to see you. You can count on that. And you better go take care of your responsibilities. And when we used to come in Friday before Jumu'ah, they would have a family meeting. The whole community come. And they would have the left and the right. And they would say, who made the money for the week? Because it's $700 you got to make, $100 a day. They put on one side, the quota makers. On the other side, you know what they were called? The bums. And they would call you by name in front of the women and children. He's a bum. He ain't make his money. I know to us, oh man, you're stuck for the law. I know, and that's why you ain't doing nothing, because you're allowed to be a bum. It wasn't no such thing as being a bum. It was a consequence if you ain't do your responsibilities. And if you was that bad, he's a bum. He's not a man. Put him on all-day guard. You stand guard and just watch the children. At least you could do that. Watch the building, because we can't count on you to build nothing. I know this is harsh stuff, but guess what? Read the Quran. You couldn't just lag behind. Read the story of Ka'b ibn Malik. You can't just lag behind. That wasn't acceptable even among the Sahaba. You can't just stay back with the women and children. We got to be honest with ourselves here. You want to talk about soldiers? We was at that conference. I met the leader of the mosque for the Nation of Islam in Chicago. He's even called Imam. I think I have his card. I may not know where I put it. He's called the Imam for the Nation of Islam. I met him. And he came to talk to me. We were talking. You know what he came with? Soldiers. He wasn't by himself. He ain't moved nowhere except there were soldiers with him. And they even had women soldiers. They ain't move. They ain't talk. They were on their job. Protect the Imam. He ain't even called ministers. Imam. Protect their Imam. They make sure he all right. They make sure their leaders are all right. They make sure their women are all right. But all we can, and listen, rightfully so, we have creedal disagreements. But they got men. Where's our men? Right? Where's our men? And sisters, I hate to go on this long thing. Stop making men babies. A lot of the women are at fault for this. My baby. Ain't no daggone baby. He's a grown man. And make him a man. That's a problem. He had enough breast milk. It's time for him to get off the bottle. He needs to be a man. And you need to force him to be a man. He needs to be accountable like a man, because he's going to lead our community. He can't run to his mama. He can't run to his sister and his auntie. He needs to protect his mama, sister, and auntie. There's a difference, if y'all get my point. And I don't know how to not talk about this issue passionately, because it's killing us. It is killing our community, the lack of manhood and leadership and accountability and responsibility. It's killing us. And no one will never respect the people whose men are weaker than their women. No one will ever respect a people whose men are weaker than their women. I need you to think about that. No people will respect another people whose men are weaker than their women. This don't work. Seriously. It don't work. It don't. And listen, you don't gotta be tough. You just gotta have real Iman. You can't even fight. That ain't the issue. But have some dignity and honor, even if you're not a fighter. You don't have to be. Because you can lose the fight, but you know you're willing to fight, everyone's going to respect you. You can lose. You're not going to win every fight. You might get whooped real bad, but you don't surrender. Because we're getting whooped, trust me, all the time, but we ain't surrendering. That ain't happening. In my community, in my Atlantic City area, in Atlantic City specifically, we used to be the voice of Islam, African Americans. When you say Islam, African Americans. Today, there's only one African American leader left in the city, and that's me. And trust me, if they could remove me, they would. If those other communities, among the Arabs and the Pakistanis and the Bengalis, if they could remove us, they would. And they would take the voice of Islam, and black folks will be neglected. You could go clean the bathroom with our permission and go sit over there in the nosebleed and listen to a khutbah that you don't understand. That's what you do. But there always must be among us some people who say, no, we have honor, we have dignity, and we're not doing that. And guess what Imam Naim said? You know, the biggest fights we fight is our own people, because they respect that. They might not like you, but they respect the man, and they know don't come playing with us. But our own people, sometimes we got to crush them to stop the rebellion. Our own people, we got to crush them to stop the rebellion. And sometimes that's what you got to do. Sometimes, as he mentioned, you got to crush the rebellion, even your own people sometimes. And it's sad, but it is what it is if we're going to survive, because they're going to sell us right down the river. They're not going to do nothing. They're going to destroy our institutions, and we done. You better stand up. All right, y'all see how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it, honestly. It's disturbing to me that it's acceptable that we become feminine males, and that's acceptable in our communities. It's cool. It's my baby. Nah, that ain't cool. That ain't cool at all. All we gotta face, all the enemies against us as a people, we all been in the university. How they treat black folks in the university, bro? How's the system treating us when they slamming us in these places? It's more us in prison than in the college universities. And we talking about be nice with each other and be kind and and made mushy and not being accountable, not being responsible. And they throwing us away for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, drugs, crime, bad income, bad housing, and we talking about something be nice. Man, get the hell out of here. I'm sorry. I don't appreciate it. And cancel me. I don't care. I'm not going for that at all. I do not appreciate a bunch of soft men. That's one of our biggest problems. You scared of your enemy. And that's why you stay in your place. But you got a lot of fire for your own people. And so the problem with Furqan, and I'll just say it, a lot of our imams They don't want to sit with imams that got principles. They don't want to sit with imams who got principles. Because if we're sitting as imams, we're sitting as men, and we're sitting as leaders, and we're going to have real talk, right? We ain't going to sit there and play games. And you got to be a real leader. Don't come to me talking about you got to go get permission. If you in this table, don't go telling me you got to go back to your board for them to tell you what to do. That means you're not in charge. You ain't really leading. You're following. So go send the board and you go sit down. Go get the board, bring the board to the meeting, and you go sit down. Because you're talking about leaders. You're talking about leaders. So it's even hard to find leaders because they made systems that make our leaders followers. We're following we got to be the board and board. Leaders are leaders. You have an imam, you have an emir, not the boards telling the imam and the emir what to do. From where did you get this stuff from? That's not our deen. Even if we have shura, there is still a leader. And when he makes the decision, that's it. There's leadership. We get to the point we don't even want leadership no more. We make a system designed that we don't have leadership. And then we try to make it like that's Quranic or that's Sunnah. Get out of here. All right. Y'all see I'm all fired up. I tell you, you talking about enjoying them right and forbidding wrong. This is an evil I hate because I didn't grow up around the concept of Islam, that Islam wasn't empowering and motivating and made you a warrior. This stuff we got going on today, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Not acceptable. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Furqan said he wanted to hear from all three of us on that question. I agree with you, man. Amin.
We got leadership around here, Furqan. I don't need no more questions.
I agree with you, man. Amin. A lot of leaders don't want to sit down. You'll be surprised how many leaders are worrying about losing followers, that they don't cooperate with other imams is extremely weird. Like, I mean, like, you really thinking that's the level that you thinking of, still your follower? No real imam wants your followers. He have a hard time with his own followers. Right? So, you know, a lot of people are comfortable where they at. Let me take you to Africa again, right? A lot of those African presidents, they comfortable where they at. They comfortable getting handouts from the World Bank and the IMF and all that kind of stuff. They don't want to rock no boat. They just want to ride this thing until the angel of death come, right? And they content. Just like in the general Black community, you have, you know, sometimes people have community organizations, nonprofits that provide services, you know, to the community. And a lot of times they get funded by grants and stuff like this. A lot of people call them managers of misery because they don't actually change what's going on, make the community better. They just take a miserable situation and make it a little bit more manageable and keep getting the money from the people that's making the situation miserable so they can help it be manageable, and just keep it going over and over again. It's not designed to bring about any change. It's designed to get a little benefit off of the situation where I'm at, but not really change anything. And so it's just a sad thing. It's like this in the Islamic community too. One time, for example, in a place, the leaders were getting together and they were talking about not doing anything big, just having an Eid together. And it wasn't, and you know, and one of the imams, he actually said it out of his mouth. Like, he said, no, we won't do no Eid together. We're going to do our own Eid because we want to collect all the zakat, the sadaqah. We want to get all the money. So, right, no Eid together. He actually said it out of his mouth, right? So it's about bread. You know, if I do the Eid with y'all, we're going to divide up the pie, right? So, you know, we're doing our own Eid, right? So So this is the type of stuff that be happening that they won't tell you about. That same imam won't get on a member and say, we refuse to do the Eid with the other communities because we want all your money. He's not going to say that from the member. But he's going to say, but I was surprised he said it, openly. But this type of stuff that be going on. Again, just like in Africa, leaders looking out for their own interests, but not looking out for the interests of the community. That's what we're dealing with here. But a lot of times they put an Islamic smokescreen with a lot of concepts that you don't understand anyway to get you thinking it's this or that. No, it's all serving their self-interest. So I agree with Imam Amin. That's my long way of saying I agree with him.
I agree with Furqan. It's time to go to sleep. That's all I got.
We got a couple more questions real quick. Why do we need to go to their table? Why can't we build our own table? Because we are people, and every people need to negotiate with every people to build a better world. But we need to be a people. So when we go to a table, it don't need to be their table. We need to be at a table that's a collective bargaining table for everybody. So, because we don't live on an island. Everyone needs resources. Everyone needs support. And we share. That's nation building. That's what nations do. So we have to see ourselves as a nation too, right? It can't be every other nation's at the table except us. And then we get whatever falls off. No, we need to be at the table with our demands like everyone else, right? We need a seat at the table. And we need our own table to build our strength so that we sit at the other table with strength. So we do need our own table. This is our own table, right? At this own table, we're doing what we got to do. And we can't worry about people who don't like us at our table. That's why it's our table. We do what we got to do, right? So
you might want to give Imam Faheem a chance to say his last words because his ride is here.
Okay, go ahead, Imam Faheem.
I ain't got no last words. Thank you all for hanging out.
No, but I just want to close out. I don't want to leave with that, but you can go ahead.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
All right,
Salam to barakatuh, man.
And I'm saying that we just listen, if you look at Mass and we came with Mass or ISNA or ICNA or anyone else, we could do a lot of good for the Ummah together. If we do our part, they do their part, we collectively cooperate, we're an Ummah. We're not individuals. No, we're one Ummah, but every part of the Ummah has to do their part, right? So we can't just be the Zakat community, right? Those are blacks, they just want Zakat. No, we have other things to contribute except our hand like this. We have resources, we have skill sets, but what we do is we go like this, and the ones who have a skill set, they take it, pick it off, they use it for us, and nothing comes back to us. That's what Imam Naim described. So no, we got to say, you can't take our resources. These are our resources. We share resources, and we bargain, and we work together, but you can't just pick our resources. You know why they pick our resources off? Because we don't have leadership. We don't follow. So you got a skill set. You don't say, let me talk to my imam. You looking for your own interests, and you'll betray the imam and the community. And they know that. So you got to have some kind of, right? Oh, and it's good. I'll feed you and the rest of them can starve. I'll feed you and the rest of them starve. And we do that. Look what Master gave me. I know, but what about the rest of us? Oh, come on, man. Everybody got to eat. You can't take everybody with you. Can't take everybody with you. You know what I mean? Some people got to stay behind. Why it always got to be us to stay behind? Hey, the brother had a question. Did you see him? Imam Naim is on YouTube.
No, I didn't see it. Let me look.
I believe that convention should be an eye-opening push for us to do good. honestly, it was one of the best feelings I had. And we do our own conventions, but that was well done. Nothing's perfect, but you talk about well done, man, that was nice. But I would like to see us do it as well. I'm not saying don't do that. We still gonna come to the table. We still gonna work. We still gonna cooperate. But we need to do our own stuff and have some dignity. And then come to the table with a better proposal the next time, with more expanded activities and programmings and our own agenda like they have their agenda. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what nations do.
His question was, if a sheikh is teaching online from YouTube, not live, but pre-recorded, and he is teaching a known book with explanation, and you take notes, how does one know he understands?
You need to sit with a teacher. You cannot learn properly from the internet. You can benefit, but you need sohbah. You need to be with a teacher who's going to check you, who's going to make sure you understood. This is one way. I don't know what nobody understands unless I know you. So it's one way. When you're live, like we're having this weekend, let me shameless plug real quick, Imam Naeem. We're going to be live in person at Masjid Muhammad this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? And you can register. It's not free. It's not free. So I want to emphasize that. It will cost you some money, right? Now, if you don't have money and you really don't have money, we will facilitate for you. But really don't have money, don't just take free just so we don't accomplish anything. So in this event, at this in-person Aqidah comparative approach, it's about Aqidah, we're going to make sure you understand. You're not going to be able to sit there and not understand because we're going to question you. We're going to make sure we can view. We're going to break out in groups. We're going to check you. You're not going to be able to walk out of there and not know anything. It's not going to happen. Inshallah ta'ala, you'll get as much as possible, but it's going to be designed that you have to learn. Because we have to learn. So you need teachers. The idea of, you just sit on the internet and, pick what you like. No, this doesn't work. You need a teacher. And we need that in our communities. This is normally for adults because it's real studying. Not saying children can't come, right? And that's why we make it only in person. Why? Because I want to ensure that we actually learning. On the internet, I don't know what you're doing right now. You could be, don't get me started. We crack jokes what people be doing while they're supposed to be listening to the lectures. They cooking, they eating popcorn, they remember what they be doing, Imam?
Yeah. I ain't going to even say.
Yeah, we ain't going to go there. That's that Negro stuff. We ain't going there. So in person, I can watch you. I can look in your eyes and see you don't understand what we're talking about. And then I can help. I can look at you and be like, he don't understand. Let me help him. Or I can assign, go over that. That's too difficult for him. Go over it, go over it, go over it, go over it. Make sure he get it. Pull him to the side. Assign someone to you. That's when you're in person. That's when you have real teachers, right? If you make a mistake, I know your mistake. I know how you made it. I can see. I can't do that from the internet. And no teacher can do that. Unless, he's a big spiritual master and he had cash, he see through the computer, he actually is in there, and the barakah is just pouring down on you. It's possible. Highly unlikely, but possible. So don't rely on that. That's borderline goofy Sufi stuff, right? Don't worry, the sheikh, no, he's guiding me. No, that's your nafs. He's not guiding you for anything. So, yes, but you need a living teacher. There's no replacing a living teacher. You cannot replace a living teacher. You need a real living teacher that you could be in contact and communicate with.
Just to add to what you just said, I think that situation is maybe you can use that as a way to get familiar with the text until you get with a real living teacher. So at least it won't be like a cold shock to you. You have some familiarity.
All right, are we good with the questions? Everyone's clear. We approaching the 3 hours. We got to stop. And I hope that you all join us who are available. The link is there to register for the program. It's not too late. Please register. I know some of you are going to just show up anyway and give us a hard time. But if you would be so kind, please register. So at least we can get numbers. We feeding, we do 2 meals a day. There's a lot of logistics. You know, we're not just on the computer. We actually working on the ground. So please, you know, be kind and let us know you coming. And I honestly, from my side, I don't mean to be harsh. I definitely don't mean to be offensive, but I do mean to be real and direct, right? And some of us, we know us. We know us. We know we playing games. And sometimes we need to call that stuff out. You know, we know we playing games. My teacher used to say, take off your mask, right? Don't come to me with no mask. I need to know who you really are. Take off your mask. You know, some of us got fake humility. You know, daggone well you ain't that daggone humble, right? And soon as your wife get mad at you, she gonna tell you how fake humble you are, right? He'll tell the whole world, that joker, right? Let me tell you about him. So no need fake, just be real. And then work on yourself, like we all need to do, but be who you are. We need it. We don't need to be faking. None of us. And since we know each other, we can deal with the real us. You know, with a real Slim Shady, please stand up. Right? We can handle it. That's right, Malika. You know how to do it. You can still send in and support even if you can't make it, because you can make it easiest for the ones who want to come but can't afford it, and you can't come but can afford it. You can take care of that. All right, Imam Naeem, any closing comments? And believe me, if I offended anyone, I apologize. Wasn't my intention. I'm a passionate dude. You know what somebody said to me at the conference?
What's that?
They're like, dang, Imam, you just like you are online. I said, what you thought? I was entertaining you or something? I'm fake? Right? He said, for real, man, you a real dude. I said, yeah, I am a real dude. So are you.
I think that's how it should be with everybody.
Right. But no, they think that you online, you somebody, and then when you see you in person, you somebody different. No, I'm the same person. Same guy you see online, the same thing. And so that means if you come to me with some nonsense, I'm going to check you. You can count on it. So that's true too. Ask Muti, he'll tell you. Hey, Muti, ain't that the same guy in person? Do you see that Fat Joe interview he had the other day? I don't know if that was yesterday or, I think, was he on a Breakfast Club or one of them? Fat Joe.
The other day, I know he's getting heat off for the interview he did on Math Hoffa.
Well, I don't know which one it was, but the boxer dude, Caleb, you know that boxer, the white guy?
Nah.
Remember he smacked the dude, the boxer? He's a white, I think he's like a middleweight or something.
Nah.
Anyway, he came, he ran down on Fat Joe, and he was like getting ready to put that thing on him. Fat Joe was like, yo, you're a professional boxer, but bro, you don't want to do that. You're not going to punch me in the face and get away with that. Right? He said, yo, man, I'm telling you, let me tell you something, cuz it ain't going to go down like that. I know that's how you thinking, but you know, don't do that, man. I'm serious. It ain't gonna turn out good for you. I was cracking up laughing. He said, yo, I don't want no trouble, but if you do that, Poppy, you get some trouble. Oh my goodness. All right, we just having fun. Gotta laugh. Stop from crying.
Alhamdulillah.
You wanna take us home?
Did y'all get any benefit from what we discussed tonight? Those of you who are still here, this 3-hour conversation. Hope it was beneficial. I need some affirmations from y'all. Was it beneficial? Even though we weren't there at the conference.
Your presence, Mr. Genius.
What'd you say?
Every moment I'm in your presence, I benefit. So it's a donation for me. I benefit.
Alhamdulillah. We weren't at the conference, breaking chains and driving chains. But, alhamdulillah, I know I got benefit. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. People say they got benefit.
But let me keep this in mind too. We do this, and this is a little edutainment, yes, but we actually really study. And if you come to our classes, our real sessions, you see what we really want to do. This is what we're doing, trying to motivate each other. But we really study. We really memorize. We really learn. Like, we really sat with teachers. Like, this not like we really want to teach and study and build. We're not just entertainers, but we have fun. You can't do but so much, right? But really, 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 you come and we sit for hours and study, hours, not 9 straight through, 8, 9 hours a day. We go in. That's what we like to do. But all of us are not there. So we got to do at every level, right? So don't misunderstand. We as they say, we really about that work. We really about that work.
Alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, everybody got benefit.
Said it's the sacred month of Rajab. Anything you would like to share?
I'll leave that for you.
Come on, Ak. Let me give Sheikh Noor a shout out. Sheikh Noor is online, being the Sheikh of the Hanabila. So let me share something beautiful he put up. Where's Noor? Oh. Sheikh Noor says something beautiful. I want to share this with you since you asked. This is a beautiful thing, and I'm copying this from our brother Noor Saunders. May Allah reward him. It's beautiful. He's the Sheikh of the Hanabili, of the Black community. So he said, some of the righteous have recommended performing 40 rakats of prayer on the first night of Rajab, seeking blessings and closeness to Allah. These prayers should be offered in units of 2 rakats each. In each rakat, recite Surah Al-Fatiha, followed by Surah Al-Ikhlas 11 times. This act of devotion is a way to honor the sanctity of Rajab and draw near to Allah through increased worship and supplications. This I receiving from our beloved brother Noor Saunders. May Allah reward him. So that's a benefit that one may take. He's a trustworthy person, and he's sitting with teachers and learning and reading trustworthy books. So it's a benefit, and he shared, and maybe we can all benefit. But one of the other things, increase your optional acts of obedience during this month. Increase. With Salah ala Nabi and dhikr and acts of kindness and goodness, inshallah, as we prepare for going into Sha'ban and Ramadan, inshallah, you will get a great reward.
Same thing for us, Abdullah.
So the first day of Rajab, according to your calculations. You know, no. We'll be Thursday. Allah.
Rajab is one of the 4 sacred months also, you know, along with Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram.
So,
You know,
all right, you want to close this out?
Good deeds are rewarded more in this month, and it is also said that sins, if punished and not forgiven, have more weight, more punishment during these 4 sacred months.
Ooh.
Alhamdulillah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت واستغفرك وأتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.